Hey folks, it's Kaeley Jade Wiebe here, Festival Director for the 2021 Ukrainian Village Music Fest, and I am so excited to be joined here today by Brian Cherwick of the Kubasonics. So we're going to talk a little bit about music and a little bit about life. And if you're not familiar with the Kubasonics, they're arguably Newfoundland's finest Ukrainian band. So this award-winning group combines top-flight musicianship spiced with quirky humor, a dizzying array of exotic traditional instruments, and an eclectic, high-energy stage show. They've performed across Canada, Eastern Europe, and the Caribbean. They've released 6 albums and are frequently featured in regional and national broadcasts. Their newest recording, Kubasongs, is set for release in 2021. Without further ado, Brian Cherwick. Hey Brian, thank you so much for joining me today. How have you been lately? How's everything going for you?
Well, all things considered, not too bad. We're fortunate because we live on an island and we're surrounded by water, so it's easier to control things in these strange times.
Yeah, I definitely imagine so. What have you been up to since the pandemic kind of started? Have you been learning anything new or like trying a new language or taking up any new hobbies in the past year?
Uh, a bit of all of that stuff. We were with our group Kubasonics. We started recording a new record just before the pandemic started. So we got the main recordings done at our local CBC studio. And then in January last year, we were buried in snow for a month. So our whole city was shut down like for at least 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
I couldn't see my car for, it took me 4 days to dig it out. Like that's how much snow there was. So our kind of follow-up recording sessions were canceled, and then we just started getting back into it again, and then the pandemic started. So it's taken us like all this year to kind of finish things up. But in that same time, like I've been doing uh, besides playing in our band, I play in a bunch of other bands. So one of the groups I play in is a Greek music band. So I started learning Greek so that I could
Cool.
read all the words to our songs in Greek. And then one of the other things I've been learning how to do is stop motion animation. So I set up a little studio in my house and been making little animated films. The idea is to make some films that'll go along with some of the new songs on our record.
Oh, that's so cool. Are you doing like claymation or is it like some other sort of media?
It's similar to that. It's not they're not clay. It's like with well, I got actually a couple of different ways I'm doing it. One is with actually figures that move around like that, and another way is cut paper kind of design thing. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So you're kind of a multidisciplinary artist then, you would say?
Well, I guess some of my colleagues they say, look, instead of learning more music things, I've tried something completely different. But sometimes that's good as anything. So yeah.
Yeah, I find especially nowadays too, you kind of need to do everything. Like there's so much that artists can do. Like it's so everyone's so empowered lately. Like so there's lots of things that you can do to further your career in different ways, I find. So that's really cool.
Yeah, well, and for us, because we're like all the musicians in our group, we do this full time, and
Mhm.
so we're always having to wear multiple hats, like, doing all kinds of what do you call it, like working with what publicists would do, or booking things or whatever. So there's all kinds of stuff on the go. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So with the pandemic too, how would you say that your artistic process has changed? Like, have you started creating a little bit differently? You mentioned the stop motion, but is there things within your songwriting that have kind of changed, or like how you might approach a project?
Well, it was tough for a while because I mean, most of what we're doing is collaborative stuff, so it was hard to get together to actually do those things. And so all of us in our group were kind of working on more individual kind of projects. We had the basis of our like newest set of material ready to go just before the pandemic hit. So it was kind of like, just waiting for the chance to get back to it and finish things up. And we were lucky here in Newfoundland, and because they had so few COVID cases, by the summer everything was kind of opened up, a bit more because we were in a really strict lockdown for a long time in the spring, and so we were able to get back to like finish up the recording stuff and then work kind of remotely with our producer, like doing all the kind of touch ups things and that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. So overall, what would you say is your favorite part about the about creating music? Like what part of the process excites you the most?
Well, I mean, one of the things I like doing is hunting for old stuff, whether it's old Ukrainian Canadian things or old stuff from all kind of Ukrainian tradition. You can tell from all my weird stuff back here that I do a bunch of weird stuff, and so it's always fun to take those things and then twist them around into a new package. So we are doing that all the time. I mean, that's what this band's always tried to do, like either come up with completely brand new stuff or take old things and put them in a way that we can show them people like how it used to be and something new that you could do with it as well. So
I listened to your Funland podcast that you'd released. So if you haven't heard it yet, it's really cool. It's available like on SoundCloud and on their website, and it's a really cool deep dive into like a lot of those inspirations that you're talking about.
I always like to send people on that same path that I've followed to get to where I am. So I always like to tell people where the ideas who did this before us, so that people can go back and listen to, previous recordings or hear how things were done before and give credit to all those people who had, great ideas in the past and just show how we respect their work and we want to just build upon it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like kind of like standing on the shoulders of those who came before you, sort of idea.
Absolutely, yeah. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have what we have to work with as it is. And so I always like to let people know, where everything comes from, and so they can check out the original versions and then check out our versions.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So who would you say some of your biggest inspirations are when you're creating music? Like, is there any certain artists or different like genres that you pull from more than others?
No, we dig through all kinds of stuff. I mean, because I'm originally from Western Canada and I grew up, lots of my relatives were musicians and played music, so I grew up hearing the Western Canadian style stuff. So we still dip into that often, but I mean, there's also all kinds of other musical traditions from Ukraine. And, one of the things that I do is play all this weird stuff back here. And so, so we try and incorporate that as much as possible if we can. And I'm really fortunate now because all the people that play in our band now are among the best musicians in Newfoundland. And so, they all are award-winning musicians on their own in other projects. And so when we get together, kind of the sky's the limit of what we can do with them now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. That's so awesome. So pointing at the weird stuff behind you, what is your favorite instrument to play? Because you play a ton of instruments. Like, so is there any that you just love playing more than others?
Well, I often answer that it depends which one I'm holding today, I guess.
Yeah.
But one I've been playing of all of this stuff, the thing I've been playing the longest is the cymbala, which
Mm.
your people in Alberta will be the most familiar with. Uh, in the old days, if you had a fiddle and a cymbala, that was enough to like have enough music for a whole wedding. And my dad and my grandfather, my great grandfather, they all played the fiddle, so I got roped into that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really neat. So I guess yeah, what I want to know too is as a band that has toured worldwide, what would you say your favorite place to play has been? Because you've been all over the place. You had an Eastern European tour a while ago, and you've played at a whole bunch of festivals across North America. So what's been your favorite venue or your favorite country?
We've had tons. Like we've been
Yeah.
so lucky to go all kind of different places. I mean, a few things stand out. Like in 2017, we were in Eastern Europe and in Ukraine, and through some people that we knew, we ended up playing for the Ukrainian Independence Day celebrations in the city of Ivano-Frankivsk. And the people that I was talking to, they said, "Oh yeah, it'll be a concert, in downtown." And I saw like a bunch of stages at different places of their main street. And I saw a small one. I said, "Oh, are we playing on this stage?" No, no, no. You'll be playing at the other end of the street. When we got there, it's like 15 or 20,000 people in the crowd and a bunch of the biggest like bands in Ukraine on that show. And so it was really cool to walk on there and then have that, and people really responding and enjoying that stuff. But I mean, we went from that one day to like playing in a little village with 20 people, in someone's house, and that was also exciting because it's completely different. And playing different places in Canada. One of the things we really like doing as well is, we played lots of festivals in Canada, not Ukrainian festivals, but just regular, music festivals. So letting people who have no idea what Ukrainian music is at all have a chance for them to see, what it's all about and see different kinds of instruments that they've never seen before, and and at those things, what we sometimes often do is, besides playing a big concert on the stage, there's smaller like workshop stages where we get to sit with a small group of people and show them what each instrument does, or we have a whole show where we teach people how to do old time dancing. So we show them the steps of dances, and then we play these old time dances for them and things like that. So it's really nice to be able to connect, right, with people directly like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of times the smaller venues are a lot more like not fun to play, but like I feel like you kind of get to know your audience a little bit more on a personal level in those sort of settings. So,
Oh yeah, well we have that when we play. We still play downtown in the pubs of St. John's. And St. John's is different of live music venues in the downtown, and so like there's some places where you can barely move when it's full of people, and it's funny to see. They don't understand what we're saying, but except for what I explained to them, by those people. So they tried singing along. Everybody's dancing however they think they want to dance to
mm,
what music we're playing, and it's also like really exciting to feel all that energy when it's in a small tight space like that. Yeah.
yes, definitely. Um, so I guess like next, like, do you have any advice for aspiring artists? And I mean, an aspiring artist, like they can be like 5 or 50. Like, do you have any words that you might want to say to someone starting out?
Well, I'd say, choose something that you like. Like do what you feel that it speaks to what you want to do. And there's a whole millions of different ways of playing Ukrainian music, I guess, and none of them is right or wrong. Some people get worried, oh, like we're not playing exactly the way it was like whenever sometime before or something. But try and do your own thing with it, I guess. There's lots of, especially now, like I mean, it's unfortunate that pandemics kind of lock people up, but then you also get to see like all kinds of people posting stuff online that you probably wouldn't have a chance to see otherwise. And so there's lots of young people out playing music and posting their things up there and trying to play stuff. So it's kind of exciting, yeah. And so I would just say, uh, look back, like try and learn as much as you can, listen to all kinds of interesting stuff, but then do your own thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's some really good words of wisdom there. So
Yeah.
finally, I guess I'm just curious, what is next for the Kubasonics? You mentioned that you had recorded a new album.
Well, that we're just finishing up the last details of it, working with their art designer right now,
Mm.
and so hopefully we'll have that out later this year. Uh, we're working on a couple of kind of projects to spread that around as much as we can when you can't actually get out and play. Uh,
Yeah.
One of the things that we got to do on our new recording is record with a bunch of friends who weren't here in Newfoundland. So because everybody was kind of locked down in all their different places, we have a one song that we are playing together with a band from Lviv, Ukraine, called the Blemko Bluegrass Band. So they're super great. We played in a show with them when we were touring Europe. We have one song that we're doing with a band from Trinidad because we were on a tour down to Trinidad a couple of years back as well, and did some collaborative work with that band when we were there. And then one more song where we have a whole bunch of different well-known singers from Ukraine get adding little bits to one of our songs as well. So it was fun to do all of those things, and I think it especially worked because of the strange times that we're in, and everybody couldn't be out on the roads, so we could get them to get together and contribute their stuff. So it should be fun and interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. It's kind of that's kind of like an interesting thing that the pandemic has sort of brought on has been this like global connection. Like, yeah, even myself, like I find I'm working with a lot more people from outside just where I live, like my own community. Like your community just becomes so much more global, I guess, when it's times like these. So that's really awesome that you're able to do that.
We came out of a new lockdown just last week, so venues are opening up again. So we have the opportunity to place, in certain places. We've already been invited to a couple festivals in the western part of Newfoundland this summer. So they're kind of hoping that things will be as normal as possible by then. So we're going to be out to do that, and our new record's got all kinds of like weird things that we've never tried before, and also it's going to be packaged in a way that's kind of unusual as well. So people can keep an eye out for that when it's on the go.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing when that comes out. So, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and chat a little bit today. We're really looking forward to your performance in the Ukrainian Village Music Fest. So, thank you so much, Brian. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and uh, hello to all my friends in Alberta and anyone else that be listening to this. Sorry we can't be out there with you, but we'll be there sort of in electronically, I guess.
Great. Well, thank you again. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Great, thanks a lot.
So thank you so much for joining us. I had so much fun, and I hope that you did too. For more Kubasonics, be sure to check out their performance in our festival stream in July, and make sure to tune in next week for our next interview session. Dziękuję for joining us, and see you next time.